Welcome to my prediction video with the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Florida Panthers in round 2. So I've been right on my past 3 predictions, 4 if you include the Stanley Cup playoffs between Florida and Edmonton. And I'm going to take another whack at it. So let's see what happens. Now before we go any further, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, helps the algorithm, and smash that subscribe button if you happen to be new to the channel. Now, by the way, you can see I've got my playoff beard going, although it's more of like a homeless look. But, you know, it doesn't have to please anyone. It's more about the voodoo factor, right? Anyways, let's jump right in. What I'm going to do here is analyze / compare position by position for each club and decide who has the edge. Afterwards, I'll throw some stats at your face, of course. Then we'll get into my X factor. And then I'll try and wrap a nice little bow around it at the end, because this is the international sign for bow, and give you my prediction. Now, starting off in net, we've got Anthony Stolraz, who's been a 901 so far in 6 games. He's played pretty well. However, since about game 5, there's been a couple of question marks, maybe a soft goal or 2 here and there, but he's generally been good. There has been some discussion about Wall starting instead of him. I don't think that's going to happen. Although if they have to go to him, say if he loses a second game, for instance, I don't think it'll be an issue, because that's Toronto's strength, right? Wall has got some great playoff numbers. Now, moving over to Bobrovsky, he hasn't been that spectacular so far either. He's only got a .901 save percentage as well in 1 fewer games. And he is 36 years old. He's getting up there. Tampa's defense isn't exactly as well-rounded in terms of how they play in front of him, but if you're going to kick in experience, Stolraz has only played 6 playoff games, whereas Bobrovsky, 99. That's right. His first game against Toronto will be his 100th. He's got a .882 save percentage in those games. Now, in last year's playoffs, he was only a .906 when he won the Cup. Maybe he's starting to slow down. Maybe not. If Florida keeps winning these series in short order, it'll definitely be a huge help to him. Who's got the edge? I'm going to have to give it to Bob here. Now let's move on to defense. With Toronto, you've got, Tanev McCabe, you've got Riley Carlo, and of course Benoit and OEL. Very nice, well-rounded group there. Only 2 of those defensemen have played up to 23 minutes. That's been Riley and McCabe, 23 and 22 respectively, I believe. The rest of the defense has played less than 19 minutes a game. They're cycling those pairs, and they seem to be able to depend on all of them. Now with Florida, Ekblad, of course, will be suspended for that first game, but right now you've got Forsling and Jones, Mikola and Kulikov, and Balinskis and Schmidt. I assume when Ekblad comes back, of course, everyone will be bumped down. And we'll get into the stats of this about, which defense offers more offense. But at this point, I think with Ekblad in the lineup, you could say Florida's got a better top 4, but I still believe Toronto's got a more well-rounded pair of 6. And in terms of how much they're playing, Florida's top 4 is going into that 23-25 minute mark. This is a really difficult one to give to one or the other. So yes, I'm going to chicken out on this one and call it even. Now, let's move on to the meat. The forward group. Beginning with the first line, comparing the two, the Panthers, they've got Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Reinhart. For Toronto, you've got Matthews, Marner, and Nyes. Now, of course, the entire Florida lineup has got a lot more experience, but if I had to say who's got more potential, I'm going to give that to Toronto's first line. The second line, with Florida, you got Bennett, Tkachuk, and Rodrigue. Toronto's JT, Nylander, and whoever's on the left wing at any point in the game, which can change between 2 to 3 players. It could be Domi, McMahon, Pacioretty, Holmgren. The entire third line, really, on that left side. I'm going to give the slight edge to Florida there, although JT and Nylander, when they get going, can be very good. JT's been awesome so far this playoffs. Arguably one of Toronto's top 2 players. Third line for Florida's got Lundell, Marchand, and Luostarinen. Toronto, the mix match of Domi, Holmgren, Pacioretty, McMahon, maybe Robertson. On Toronto's side, they kind of have to be sheltered depending who's playing center, be it Domi or Holmgren. This one's pretty obvious, though. I'm giving the edge to Florida easily. The fourth line for Florida consists of Sturm, Boqvist, and Greer. I know there's some players that go in and out there, but all of them don't play more than, I want to say, 9 minutes max a game. Whereas Toronto's with Lawton, Lorentz, and Yankrok, which has become a staple, none of those guys have changed, and they've been great. You can play them in the O-zone, where they just cycle the hell out of you and hit you every 2 seconds, or they're very responsible enough to play in the D-zone as well. And most of them are playing 12 to 14 minutes a game. So it's more like Toronto's got 2 third lines in that respect. And if I'm giving the advantage, it's definitely going to be to the Maple Leafs on that part. So we've got a split down the middle, but Toronto seems to cycle their lines more frequently than the Panthers do, even though offensively, Toronto is more top heavy. I think the Leafs forward have the potential to become much better. Although in the past, Matthews, Marner have been known to kind of fall silent late in a series from game 4 on. So in that respect, I'm going to have to give the slight advantage to Florida among the forwards. They just earned it. Now it's time for me to throw some stats at your face. All these stats, by the way, were taken before the last 2 games of the first round. Starting with games played, Toronto 6, Florida 5, of course, from the first round. Goals for, Toronto had 19, as did Florida. They both sit tied. Edmonton is first and New Jersey is last, by the way. Goals against, Toronto's got 16th. They sit 4th. Tampa Bay sits 2nd with 12. First is Carolina, and last is one of the top 2 defensive teams during the regular season, the LA Kings. Special teams, starting with the power play. Toronto is ranked 3rd right now. Florida's 9th. First is LA, believe it or not. And 16th last is New Jersey. Penalty kill, Toronto ranks 5th. In the playoffs, Florida 2nd, and it's a difference of almost 9% here. Penalty minutes, Toronto's 9th in the playoffs, Florida's 3rd. Winnipeg is in 1st, Vegas in last. Face-off win percentage, Toronto's in 1st, Florida in 9th. 2nd is Vegas, and 16th was Ottawa. Hits, the Leafs are 9th, Florida's 7th. 1st was Ottawa, last was the Lightning. Blocks, Toronto's 2nd. Panthers 10th. Shots for, Toronto's 12th. Florida's 10th. Not much of a difference here. Less than a shot per game. First is Carolina. Last was Tampa Bay. Shots against ranked in terms of keeping teams down the podium. Toronto was 3rd with 24. Florida was 1st with a 22.4. Giveaways. Now, the higher you're ranked here, the less giveaways you give up. Toronto was 6th. Florida was 8th. Vegas is 1st, by the way, and St. Louis is last. Takeaways, Toronto was 2nd. Florida was 11th. Colorado was 1st, and Carolina was last. Now I've got a category with players with 3+ goals in the playoffs at the moment. Toronto's got 3 of them with 3+. That's JT, Nylander, and Nyes. Florida's got 3 as well with Bennett, Tkachuk, and Schmidt. More on that in a second. Defenseman goals. How many goals has each club gotten from their D-men? Both Toronto and Florida have 5 each. OEL and Riley led the way with 2 goals apiece for the Leafs. For Florida, Schmidt leads the way with 3. He's not even on the first power play. Shooting percentage. Now, the playoff average so far is 11.5. Toronto's at 12.6. And Florida's at 14.8. Save percentage. We've already touched on this lightly with the goaltenders. Stolaroz and Bobrovsky are both 901s in 6 and 5 games, respectively. Now, the backups, who both haven't played, Wall has had 7 playoff games under his belt in total with a 940 save percentage. And Vitek Vanacek has 10 playoff games under his belt with an 813. X factors. Starting with the Leafs, I think you could give this to a number of players. Last series, I gave it to Nyes, but you could easily say, Marner and Matthews, because offensively they've been disappearing late in rounds. You could say Toronto's defense, see if they can continue scoring at the same rate. I'm going to say, though, Bobby McMann, because he's been very quiet so far. He's had some decent games here and there, but he hasn't really got on the board with only 1 assist. What I think is going to happen is that Pacioretty, Holmberg, and McMann are going to rotate from left wing beside JT and Nylander to the 3rd line, depending on the situation in the game. If they need some goals, I think you could see Pacioretty or McMann sharing some time up there. But if that 2nd line is just giving up too much chances, you could see Holmberg going back. For the Panthers, it's much more simpler. For me, anyways, I'm going with Marchand. He's playing on that 3rd line. He's on the 2nd power play unit. He can play the PK. He's great at reading plays. He seems to be adapting more and more every day to this Panthers club and how they play. And he's kind of been known just a little bit, maybe, for torturing and torching the Maple Leafs. So, here we go, the moment of truth. Where am I going to go here? The obvious is Florida's a much more experienced club. They've got a smothering forecheck that even Tampa Bay couldn't figure out when they had such a great regular season, and they seem to be rebounding. Some insiders actually picked the Lightning to go to the final. And Florida just pound the hell out of your D, smother you with their forecheck. Eventually, you make a mistake and they pounce. And that's how they work. Toronto's identity, on the other hand, is keeping you to the outside, slowing down the game, and jumping on your mistakes. This is the best Toronto defense I've seen in well over a decade. You can easily trust all three pairs. They're not super offensive, but neither is Florida's. For the Leafs to do this, Matthews, Nylander, JT, Marner, the core have got to put their game into fifth gear. It's that simple, the way it's always been. They can't die and act like ghosts late in the series. They got to initiate, not retaliate, because we all know Florida's got a bunch of greasy rats there, including Marchand, Tkachuk, Bennett, Ekblad, Mikkola. Toronto's got their work cut out for them. The Leafs are getting some key contributions in terms of game-winning goals from unexpected players like Pacioretty and Domi and Benoit. Can that continue? This is probably the best balanced Leaf team we've seen in a long time. The longer this series goes on, maybe Florida starts to wear down after going to the finals for 2 straight years in a row. So I'm going to give this to the Panthers. How many games? I originally was thinking 5, but I'm going to say 6. I'll be an optimist-ish. I don't think it's impossible for the Leafs to win this, but if they did, it would probably have to go at least 6, probably 7 games, even though they're horrible in Game 7s. So yeah, Florida in 6. For those of you who've skipped to the end of the video, which team do I think is going to win this one? I gotta go with the Leafs. I mean, look at me, right? Homer City. Leafs have been to the playoffs for 9 years in a row. Over a longer period of time, they just have more experience than the Florida Panthers, really. Sorta. Kinda. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button if you happen to be new to the channel. And if you'd like to support me and the work I do here, you can do that through my crowdfunding page called Buy Me a Coffee. You'll see a link down below or just on my profile page. Please keep enjoying the playoffs. Go Leafs go. Most importantly though, don't forget to be excellent to each other.